figured it'd be fitting if the video started and I was drinking my favorite beverage, coffee.
Some hot cocoa coffee, hot cocoa, that kind of thing.
Just coffee black like my soul.
Welcome to Roll for Effort. Hopefully everybody had a wonderful holiday. I
hope you were able to fill your stockings with plunder from the dragon's hoard.
That's right. Lots of loot to behold. And, this is an exciting time because we're about to embark on a brand new year and the like. And,
yes.
Yeah, so, guys, this last episode of the month here in December, we want to talk about... Well, so there are lots of you out there who really enjoy hearing from us on the forums and seeing things, but you just don't have 2 hours every week to give to watching the games that are going on. And that's okay. So this is our session for you. We want to talk about the games we've been running and kind of do like a very quick sort of DM journal about them and going through the mechanics of it and what we did and some of the key insights, the really important insights that we got out of them. And that's what this is.
Exactly. We hope to summarize the games as well as we can. I've been holding that one in since the tree day. The day of the pointy pines.
I love it. I'm going to double your pay, sir. I'm going to double it. Nay, triple it. I'm going to triple your pay.
Oh, man.
Oh.
Wunderbar.
Yeah. Okay, so we just wrapped up. So this is the very first time we're doing this. And usually when we do these, we're just going to talk about the previous month. This is the very first time. We're just going to talk about the last campaign that we ran, which was very interesting. So we lovingly called it The Watch, and it was the normal Roll for Effort crew, right? And by the way, the Workshop Dragon games too, which are also near and dear to my heart, those are still going. So we're going to be able to do this kind of thing next month. So Workshop Dragon is coming for all those sci-fi fans. It is coming. It's just that's not today. We're focusing on the fantasy run game today. So that was a very interesting game. So before we even started, everybody created their own characters and backstories, and you guys all went in and played what was it like 2 weeks of roleplay and Krask, right, Joe?
Yeah, it was like 2 weeks, all kind of play by post style, I guess you could say, but very free form. But literally, like we were, text based, over our private Discord channel, like playing in these connections between characters and just kind of building up their backstory as they stood post, at the watch on Krask before we set sail. And I'm sorry, not Krask.
It was Krask. It was Krask. Yeah, and Pete,
Scar.
Yeah, and forgive us because we're remembering like months back worth of stuff here. So Pete gets a letter from Ramthas, from some clerk's office that his
Osric got a letter from Pete.
Osric, right? Brandon's character Osric got a letter from Pete that basically Pete had gone missing and it had been long enough to legally declare him dead, and they were going to have formal funeral there in Ramthas, and he was going to give all of his possessions over to him. And so that kind of set the things into motion, where the adventurers began traveling down to Ramthas. And so our first episode took place in Scar.
Right off the boat.
Yeah, right off the boat. And so you're traveling through these giant, like, volcanic buttes, and you come across a caravan being jumped by bandits, right?
Yep. And we were, after all that time on that icy boat and on that icy island, and here we are finally in the warmth of a desert sun, with all these canyons and such. We were itching for that fight.
Yeah, itching for that fight. And I attempted, as the dungeon master, I attempted to put a thing into play, which ended up not really working out at all the way. So when I had planned the campaign was supposed to operate as a timeline-based campaign where there were certain events happening in the background. They were just going to keep happening no matter what.
Because the world is living.
Right, because the world is living. So that was the idea, and that proved to be very difficult to actually run. So I have a lot of thoughts on that. We're going to talk about in a DM-style game, video at some point. But it was needless to say. So the first thing that happened was that the sun became basically a dark star, where it started to turn brown, and it was making everything sort of sick and dying and that kind of thing. And the players, they come across this caravan, or this merchant basically carrying goods, and they save him. But we had a scout in the group, and the scout realized that there was something weird going on with the caravan driver, and the caravan dropped a giant fireball into everybody, like right from the get-go, and turned out to be a snake man who was carrying a missive to the Yellow King, who was my big bad arch nemesis that was planned for the whole campaign. And that was supposed to be sort of the first seed that was going to lead on to other stuff. After that, you guys bested that situation, and then you moved on, and you were attacked by giant scorpions.
Yeah, which that was a cool fight, and met another lizard man. We did,
right?
And he gave us the info that his whole village was under onslaught of some great beast, and hero mentality. Of course, we were going to go and help.
Right.
We followed him. We're like, yes, we'll do it. We're part of the watch of Ramthus. We're headed back home. We will help you on this, on our path.
Yeah, and that's a theme. And I was trying to work off of the source book of Worlds. Worlds' theme for Scar is that you have giant beasts, because
massive.
Yeah. And so that's kind of what I was going for, and I was, so it was going to be like the first session, and then we'd have this big hook where there'd be a cool boss fight with this sort of giant beast, and it turned out to be a manticore.
Yes. Oh, that damn manticore.
Yes, that damned manticore. And a thing happened, which I don't really recommend, but it happened, so be it. One of the players died. Oh, God. It was so bad.
It was tragic.
Oh my God!
I mean, you had brought it up that yes, this if you are reduced to zero in its mouth, you are getting swallowed.
Right.
And we kind of knew it, but I don't think. I think somehow we thought, no, it's not going to happen. We're the heroes, and then it happened, and we were all kind of dumbstruck of oh my God, death is real. Looking right at the camera here for all those people watching. Death is real.
Yeah.
Player death happens. The dice always decide. Do not fudge your dice.
Yeah, don't fudge your dice.
Things happen.
Okay. So don't fudge your dice, but be really careful with your first game's encounters. Because there's a part of me as a DM that cringes, like, oh God, I killed a player in the first game. And the problem with that, from a storyteller point of view, which I figured out much, much later, I didn't really even understand what was happening when it happened, because it just hit everybody like a Mack truck. And when I say that it was so freaking tragic that people, everybody went through, the stages of grieving. All the stages of grieving appeared from everybody in the entire group for, the next week. It was really, I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah. And that was partially our fault. It's we had played with these characters for 2 weeks, so the characters had that same place in our minds and in our hearts as if we had been playing them this whole time at the table. So because we kind of were, even though it was from a text-based scenario.
Yeah.
So there was that added weight because we knew these characters already. We we were playing them. They had all these connections.
Yep.
So it really changed the dynamic.
It did.
Away from being a first session into a session much farther down the road.
Right.
As far as like the grief that came in, like it felt bigger than session 1.
But it lacked the important things you need in order for a death to happen. Because what I didn't realize at the time is that in storytelling, if somebody dies who is ultra good and it doesn't serve a greater purpose, it's kind of like a meaningless death, which is unfortunately what it was. It induces the emotion kind of disgust, like, oh, that's terrible. That's a horrible, disgusting thing that happened. Somebody just died. And, whereas if the character is a little bit better established, where they have flaws, they're, imperfect, and the death is sort of serving, sort of a greater scheme at the end, then it'll induce emotions of sadness, but the sadness will be more meaningful, unfortunately.
More direction.
Yeah, so that was a massive learning point for me. So that was very interesting, and the DM note that I will carry with me to my grave. So
I still have to say, we chose that encounter. We could have left him on his own and continued on our way.
Yeah, well, it happened, so it happened, and so the next session comes in. We decided that it would be better to sort of skip the travel montage and kind of go straight into, the next part of the story. And we arrive in Ramthas. We learn that the king is sick in some way. The new character created by Kelsey, amazing,
was so badass.
Was so badass. Tark, yeah.
Man. That little knight of the Shum.
Yes. A little goblin that rides a raptor. She had as her milestone she could do the leaping thing where she could leap to people, and it was really fun. It was a super fun character that she made. After poor Styx bit it in the desert, and this also created a big story element, right? Like the Pete's death and reclaiming his property dropped out of the wayside. Like nobody cared about that. The whole point now is to take the body back to Ramethas so she can be laid to rest.
Yeah, the body of Styx, so she can be put at the Golgan Stone with her ancestors. That became our goal at that point.
Yep. And so they get there to Ramethas. There's a scene where the other big bad of the story, Rodzi, who's a character that I played in a previous game, which is amazing. You should go back and watch that whole campaign. That was a great campaign. Shows up, kind of harasses the players, and they do battle with the sort of undead. He sort of wakes up a bunch of these corpses. So that was part of it, right? The horror. You walked in, and do you remember what the inside of the temple was like?
Oh, at that point, that was the temple in Ramthas, right?
Right, in Ramthas.
Yeah. That was, that was the one where there was the piles of bones and stuff laying around.
Right, yeah. So the dwarves were going around and having all of the match accusers burned alive and murdered.
Yes.
Right? And yeah, and by order of the king, of no less, who is in all of Brandon's books this sort of super noble, good character. So everyone's like, what is going on?
Yes, that was a point we knew something is wrong with King Akram, because he was the best among us.
Right.
Thing.
And that was one of my favorite points in the campaign, because you guys went in, you found the king, and
that horror thing that was helping control, along with that damn guy who was speaking poison in his ear.
Yep. It was totally the inspiration was very clear cut from J.R.R. Tolkien's meanings where Gandalf says the King of Rohan, and
yes,
all of that played out beautifully. The king was like, well, we're going to go to war now, and we need one of the weapons that we were forging to fight the wizard. And so then you guys go down into the vaults of the city. There was a giant monster, a monster that sort of came out of the
beast thing.
Yeah, a plant beast, because that was part of it, right? The sun had turned brown, and it was making everything sick. And so then the plants were starting to turn sort of hostile on everybody.
Right.
And so there's so Vine Monster comes up. Joe's character gets a hold of this hammer, which is basically Mjolnir. It's Thor's hammer.
Yep.
It was so good. You throw it, and
The
lightning
all
would shoot out. Yeah.
Yep. Returns to your hand, fires lightning, the all hammer.
Yep. Yep.
And that was actually kind of a changing moment for the character, for my character Bulger, because he went from just being a grizzled old boxer, because he kind of started as like a fist fighter, and then with this hammer, like bestowed by the king, no less. Like, how could you refuse that? So like then he kind of switched into, I guess, more of like a classical dwarf. Like he was armed with that mighty hammer all of a sudden.
And it's funny because that hammer was the commander class reward.
Yeah,
and I
Brendan's character, Osric, the commander, was like, "No, you take it."
Yeah,
Bulk followed Osric's commands like without question, because they were the connection those characters had and like the history that they had. He was like, "You got it." Like, "Yes, sir, Oz."
Yep.
Like,
yep. Osric was like, "I use swords." You're all good. Take it.
Right? That's yours, Bulger. You picked it up. You carry it.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, and then so right about this time, Brandon was coming out with the battle maps for Bearcats.
Yes.
And so I was inspired to try and make my own version of the battle map. And so the next game that we played in, the heroes were sort of strongly encouraged to go to try and find the High Cleric, who had basically run away in hiding when the city went crazy and started killing all the magic users.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, old Jeb was hiding up in the mountains, and so I drew this sort of beautiful glacier drawing.
That was so good. That map was great.
Yeah, that was so fun. Like, I really enjoyed that. That part of the adventure was really my favorite, was kind of getting away from the canon of the books and just sort of getting into, like, just the wilderness. I think I learned, like, as a DM, that's kind of where I shine a little bit better, is just sort of rolling bones out in the wilderness.
Right.
Anything could happen out there. And so
the onslaught first came of all those, just all the baddies, like all these minions.
Right. And that was one of the world clock items, is that 1/10 of every... So there was a decimation. So 1 out of every 10 souls was turned into a beast man.
Yeah, and they all seemed to have a taste for our small company.
Yeah.
That was a great moment, because at first we were like, we can stay and fight them, and then I think it was Garrick, Matt's character, our scout, who every time he scouted, nat 20, the best scout you could be. He's like, "Hey, we can't fight them all. There are so many coming. We need to run."
And that was so challenging too to run, because it was like, okay, he scored a nat 20 again. What do I tell him more about this situation? Like, I find myself like trying to force myself to make up additional facts just to sort of help that nat 20 be satisfying. Like, that was really difficult to do.
Yeah, he played scout. Like, that was, the dice supported him being a scout so much.
Yeah. And that was so fun. So you guys spent like the next 2 sessions climbing up this glacier.
Yes.
On the way, you faced Matt. Matt had a big ask. He said he'd never fought a dragon, really wanted to fight a dragon. And so, of course, there was an ice dragon, a white dragon, on the mountainside.
And what a dragon fight that was. It was epic. It was amazing.
Yeah, that played out really well. No one was devoured. I was very happy about that.
And both Matt's character, Garrick, or Gareth? No, it was Garrick. Both his character, Garrick, and Kelsey's character, Tark, like, MVP of that dragon fight. They freaking shined, from Kelsey jumping on the dragon's back. That massive leap he took as it was diving down. That was epic.
Yeah.
It didn't quite pay off, but how fucking epic was that to jump on a dragon's back mid-flight?
Yeah.
And then it was way up top, out of our reach. And again, Garrick, just completely clutch moment with the bow. Tink, drops the thing, hits it with just enough to send it crashing back down to the ground, so again we could deal with it. Because as we found out from you later, like, all hell was about to break loose as that dragon was going to drop some whammy. But that huge clutch moment, again, why the two of them are MVP for those moves was him dropping that dragon down to the ground. Yeah. Not killing it, but taking that flight moment away where it was going to just wreak havoc on us. Right. So clutch, so badass.
Yeah. And if it had gone on longer, it was actually, there were two other dragons on that mountainside that it would have kind of brought in.
Man.
Yeah, and I had very loosely sort of scripted out like how all three would work. It was just sort of a loose AI system, and man, that was so unexpected how that played out, and it was just so fun. So that's how that worked. Like so those like 2 sessions, you guys climbed to the mountainside. You get to the very end. There was a sort of a scene where sort of there were all these dead people that had been frozen in the ice as like the ice dragon's like refrigerator, and they would come to life and start attacking everybody.
Yeah.
And that was sort of inspired by that scene in Game of Thrones where they're running towards the Children of the Forest, tree, basically, as the undead are like waking up and chasing them.
Certainly.
Yeah, so that was a lot of fun. There was also demons coming into the world. That was part of the world timer as it ticked down, was that the veil was sort of thinning out and beings are being able to kind of come in. So you make it to the top, and
find good old Jeb.
You find good old Jeb, and Jeb immediately just walks up to Alex's character and basically tells Alex that he's the next chosen one, and don't worry about him, and then like steps aside, and this stealth assassin that was going to kill Alex's character comes out of stealth and kills Jeb instead.
Yep, and funny enough, that was Alex's character from the previous campaign.
Right.
It was Ren that came out.
Yeah.
Corrupted because, if you haven't watched that final episode, I won't spoil that for you. Maybe I already did spoil it.
Well, it's okay. Basically there were tie-ins because in the previous game, to put it lightly, we lost. The villain won. So that was an inspiration for everything because everyone said they wanted a tie-in. So like Radze was the big bad from the previous game, and now he's the big bad in this game, although kind of big bad next to the Yellow King. Right. And sure enough,
we found out he was the puppet. But I'm getting ahead of it.
Yeah. All your characters were basically taken over by me and used as sort of villains, for the remainder of the game, which was interesting. And so at this point, there was a lot of weird tension kind of building up where everybody knew that the King of Ramethus was taking his army to go fight at the Crystal Tower, and you get to the top, and there's another wizard up there, taken from the World's Book, that he would be up there, and basically he kind of relayed that for the last couple of years they had been building sort of a magical tunnel that would lead you guys into the Crystal Tower, which was like in another country, like super far away, would teleport you in. So you go through that, and then boom, you're right there in Radze's Crystal Tower.
Right, at the top of this thing that used to be, at one point was, the city of Englemore, but now is sadly wrecked as the bad guy tower went up, which was so epic.
Yeah. And so there was it was a really interesting boss fight. And this is where I learned like another really great lesson as a DM about catharsism and like the release of emotion, because these guys fought through 120 hit points worth of hearts to fight Radze, slaying his all of his minions, these like swarms of rats and crows, and he was soul bound to all their previous characters, and the entire which you all saved, which was amazing, and the entire session was dedicated to this one battle that went on for like an entire session, and it's very interesting because in my head, like, it was like this epic boss fight, but to a lot of the players, it turned out that they felt like they were fighting these other things individually. And in sort of the last moment, before they are able to take out Radze, they get like one hit in on him, and then the Yellow King steps in, steals the artifact that Radze was using to cause all the havoc of the world problems, kind of reveals that Alex's character, who had been chased by these dogs and his village was destroyed, that he was sort of in charge of these dog characters and everything. They stepped into the scene. And then it transitioned to, like, there are the dog characters and you guys, and I rolled the timer, and, like, boom, out of the sky is coming this floating island, which is the Yellow King's fortress.
Yes.
Which he had set to ram into the tower. And that was supposed to transition into sort of the final leg of the campaign.
Right.
Which would be another sort of big battle map. That
it was a cool map.
Yeah.
Like I did enjoy that the scope and scale of, like, those floating islands. That was great.
It was crazy fun. All of this whole adventure was crazy fun to run, and So that's really where the campaign ends. So the tower gets hit. The players get left on the island. You guys managed to go in and raid one of the towers. You made it halfway up, and then life happened. Right. So this is a big important lesson for everybody out there. Sometimes life happens. NaNoWriMo was starting in November for Kelsey. She wanted to donate her time to writing. Brandon and Alex were head deep into working on Retune, the upcoming book, which is going to be badass. And
Retune I think Retune is
I guess that's the whole project, right? Like the book is going to be Altered State.
Yeah. The game segment is Altered State that Alex and Brandon are working on, and Brandon is separately writing the his Path versions book. I don't want to give away too much on that. I don't know, because he might be publicly playing something close to the vest, but the book Retune is coming from him. Yeah. New novel. Yeah. I think is as far as I understand it. Yeah.
Yeah. All that's going to be amazing. Everything that Brandon creates is held. He holds things to such a high level of quality and beauty that you cannot possibly waste money on him, because everything is of such a higher value than what he charges for it. It's freaking mind-boggling. Like, that guy is artistic Superman.
Well, I mean, it's that difference of doing it for the money versus where Brandon's at, of doing it because the love of the game, the love of the hobby. There's like it's coming in from the passion side.
Yeah.
And, same with from what I've seen, looking back at Xeno Dead Zone, as well as this new upcoming Altered State. Alex working on both. Like there's a passion in there, and that's I think the difference.
And you know what? We talk a lot. We play a lot of ICRPG games, and if you're new to the channel and you're not really familiar with ICRPG, or you're new to role playing and you're looking for like a really cool place to start, on Brandon's store on DriveThru, he actually has a packet that you can download where it's a free starter set. It's free. You don't have to pay anything, and you get sort of the basic classes and the basic set of rules. And I highly recommend that you give it a shot. Yeah, it's just so much fun.
It definitely is. And quick start rules, you can't go wrong. It gives you everything you need to play to really check out ICRPG.
Yeah.
And if you're still hung up, and need some more pointers, you can check out some of the videos here on RFE, or you can join the Runehammer forums, which, pretty sure there's a link, or should be a link in the description for this, or some such.
Yeah, we have some collaboration links down below. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's another great place for even more, dives into that system and everything, and it's bing choice.
Yeah. So everybody who's still with us, this one ran a little bit long, but everybody out there, we absolutely adore and appreciate you and your time. Thank you for watching us ramble. We appreciate you. And let us know in the comments below if there's anything else you'd like to see from our channel, or for us to do, or if you guys have any questions. I check it very, very frequently. So does Joe. You'll see our comments on all the previous videos.
I pop up as the 1 foot wall. That's my handle on YouTube.
Yes, that is the Joe.
That's this goofy face.
Yeah.
One day I'll tell you the story on why it's the 1 foot wall, and that will be amusing.
Yeah, I like it. We're gonna do that. So this has been fun. This has been absolute blast of the month making these, and
Real quick on the summarization.
yeah,
So as I see it in my mind, because life did kind of happen, and kind of campaign had to get put kind of on a shelf. As I see it, they were exploring this tower, and maybe they found what they were looking for. Maybe they didn't. The space and the strangeness of these floating islands of I believe it's Aphos.
yeah. These are some of the islands of Athos.
Yeah, you can find them, I think, briefly mentioned in Core, most certainly in Worlds. But they were kind of lost into the ultra magic soaked, mystery of those islands, and they are still up there flying around, wandering, looking for a way to defeat that Yellow King.
Yeah, I mean, who knows, right? Like there were. I like to imagine that sort of the Knights of Ramthas, heroes of the age that saved King. Oh gosh, I'm blanking on his name. Akram, yeah. So saving King Akram, the Sunstone, were sent off on a quest to the frozen mountains, in the Gem Glaciers, and disappeared and were never seen or heard from again. But who knows where their story went, because Alex's character had the ability to open up ley lines and travel through them, and there were many points of power on that island.
Good old Vlas.
Yeah, good old Vlas. So, I like to believe that those heroes are still going around, jumping to the next frying pan, and
right. My neck frills go blue.
Right.
Which anybody who doesn't know what that means has to go back and watch the campaign.
That's right. Yeah, fun times. And we're, keep watching, guys. The games to come, we're going to have a lot of really interesting things happening. We're going to be running. So Warp Shell's been done very, very slowly, like one game a month or two apart. But we're gonna put Dragon in the front seat and finish the Warp Shell Dragon campaign, running it weekly here, coming up soon. Well, I guess by the time you see this, because we're filming this just slightly earlier, it'll have already begun, so you'll already know that that's happening. And then after that, we're going to dive in with new stories and new story arcs, and we're going to be branching out a little bit. We're going to be playing some other core systems that are out there.
Right.
Always in our own way, though, with our own touch of ICRPG and that kind of thing. Yep. But we're looking forward to playing some 5th edition and probably some Earthbound from the sound of it.
Yeah, I'll introduce you guys to Earthdawn, plus many, many, many other games. You will be so sick of new systems.
Yay!
But we will still there'll be plenty of ICRPG layered in there as well. Lots of new stories, lots of new games.
Well, and that's the lesson of dungeon mastering is don't be confined to a system. Take the parts you like from all the systems you like and put them together.
Yes, because DIY, we could do this. You could do this.
Yeah.
Right? Take what you like and put it into another thing.
And this has been so much fun. All right, well, I'm going to roll the credits, guys. Thank you so much again. And, let us know in the comments. Share the video if you like it. And thank you.
Yep. Have a Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Woo!
Days away. Thanks, guys.
Oh, yeah.